The silence of the Lunar Communications Center was a physical thing. It was a deep, absorbing quiet, broken only by the faint hum of machines and the soft sound of Min's breathing. He preferred the night watch for this reason. The big screen showed the blue marble of Earth, peaceful and bright against the black. He sipped his cold tea and scanned the lines of data flowing on his terminal. It was all routine satellite telemetry, routine shipping updates, the chatter of the Mars colony. Another quiet night. Min was a man built for silence. He had a calm face and careful hands. He had joined the United Earth Relay Service not for adventure, but for order. Space, from his small station on the moon, was a place of predictable mathematics and clean signals. It was honest. His console gave a soft, almost apologetic ping. A new signal flagged on the long-range array. Min leaned forward, his brow furrowing. The source was wrong. It wasn't from any human beacon, or even from the usual cosmic noise. This came from far beyond the edge of the solar system, from a point in the dark with no known stars. He tapped a key. The signal was a mess of static at first, a chaotic ripple in the void. But buried inside was a pattern. The computer flagged it as artificial. A chill, not of fear but of profound weight, settled in Min's stomach. He initiated the decode protocol, his fingers moving with practiced efficiency. Across the room, the door slid open with a sigh. Yuna entered, carrying 2 fresh cups of tea. She was his shift partner and his friend. Where Min was quiet, Yuna was observant. She noticed the tight line of his shoulders immediately. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, placing a cup beside him. "Did the coffee machine finally transmit its revolt?" "Something's coming in," Min said, his voice low. "From way out. It's structured." Yuna's playful smile vanished. She pulled her chair over, her eyes fixed on his screen. Together they watched as the computer slowly untangled the message. It wasn't language as they knew it. It was mathematics, universal constants woven with simple pictorial representations. Hydrogen atom, a star, planet, a gesture of an open hand. "It's a greeting," Yuna whispered, her voice full of awe. "Min, that's a first contact package. The classic model." The final decoded image resolved. It showed 2 simple figures standing before their respective planets, their hands extended toward each other, with a small, neat series of dots between them. A binary counter now reading 0. A clean slate. An offer. The quiet of the center was different now. It was no longer empty. It was charged, holding its breath. Min sent an urgent, encrypted ping to Earth. Within minutes, his screen was filled with the faces of the United Earth Council. Their expressions a mix of sleepiness, confusion, and dawning realization. The head of the council, an older woman named Director Park, spoke first. "Confirm the signal's origin, Officer Min." "Confirmed, Director," Min replied. "It is non-human, non-terrestrial in origin. The content is purely peaceful. A standard SETI greeting protocol." A long debate began, voices overlapping. Some urged caution to wait to send probes. Others spoke of history of the moment they were in. Yuna listened, but her eyes kept drifting back to the simple image on Min's secondary screen. The 2 figures, the open hands. Director Park held up a hand, silencing the room. "We have protocols for this, debated for 100 years. We answer with peace. That is who we are." She looked directly into the camera, at Min draft the standard response package. The welcome, the peaceful intent, an invitation for further dialogue. Send it on the same frequency. Mark this moment. The task fell to Min. His calm hands, which moments before had been adjusting volume levels, were now tasked with crafting humanity's first words to an alien intelligence. He used the same language, mathematics, physics, universal concepts. He included images of Earth, of diverse human faces smiling, of cities and forests. He ended with the same pictorial of 2 figures, but this time with a small, pulsing light between their joined hands. Connection made. Yuna watched him work. "It's strange," she said softly. "All our stories, they're always about war, invasion, battles. But our first real message is hello and welcome. It's the better story, Min said, finalizing the sequence. He felt a profound fatigue, not from work, but from the weight of the action. We get to choose which story we tell them first. He took a deep breath. The council gave their final authorization. The message was cued. The most powerful transmitter on the moon, a dish carved into the lunar regolith, aimed itself at the point of origin in the endless dark. Sending, Min said, and pressed the key. A silent pulse of energy, carrying their hopes, shot into the cosmos. On the screen, a simple confirmation blinked. Transmission sent. The silence returned. But it was changed forever. Min and Yuna sat in the dim light, staring at the star field on the main viewer. Somewhere out there, the signal was racing toward its destination. They had sought peace. They had announced their presence to the universe with an open hand. Min finished his tea. It was now truly cold. He felt a small, quiet pride. Whatever came next, humanity had begun this with its best foot forward. He could only hope the universe would do the same. The wait, he knew, would be the hardest part. Time passed. On Earth, the news of the signal and the reply had caused a brief, global sensation. There were celebrations, debates, and a nervous kind of hope. Then, life slowly returned to a new normal, a normal that now included waiting. For the people on the frontier, like Tay on Mars, the waiting was just part of the job. Tay was a pilot for the United Earth Defense Fleet, but his job was mostly patrols and asteroid spotting. Defense was a formality. There had been no war in generations. His ship, the Gyeongbok, was a small, sleek craft built for speed and sensors, not for fighting. He loved the silence of space and the clear view of the stars from the Martian orbit. His co-pilot, Hannah, was checking the long-range scanner for the 10th time that shift. "Nothing but rocks and quiet," she said, leaning back in her chair. "Do you think they'll even come? Or was it just a message in a bottle?" "Someone sent it," Tay replied, his eyes on the navigation screen. "They'll come. The question is when." He tried to sound professional, but a thrill of curiosity ran underneath. To meet another intelligence. It was the dream of every explorer. That's when the alarm chimed, soft and persistent. Not a red alert, but a priority notification. Hannah sat up straight, her fingers flying over her console. Multiple contacts. Beyond the orbit of Jupiter. They're just appearing. 1, 3, 8 confirmed vessels. A quiet intensity filled the cockpit. Tay brought the Gyeongbok to full readiness, his hands steady. He opened a channel to Earth Command. "Command, this is UEDF Gyeongbok on patrol. We have visual on unidentified vessels at the posted coordinates. They have emerged from beyond the system's edge. Please confirm." The voice from command was calm but tight. "Confirmed, Gyeongbok. Do not approach. Hold position and observe. The escort fleet is mobilizing. Remember, protocols are peaceful. You are the eyes only." The escort fleet was a collection of Earth's newest and most diplomatic ships, painted white and silver, devoid of visible weapons. Their mission was to welcome, not to threaten. Tay watched on his screen as the fleet, tiny against the dark, moved past his position towards the newcomers. The alien ships were unlike anything in human design. They were graceful, flowing shapes that seemed to be made of a mother-of-pearl material that shimmered softly. They moved without engines that Tay could see, gliding silently. They made no aggressive moves. They simply stopped, holding position as the human fleet approached. A new signal arrived, this one directed at the escort fleet's flagship. It was a complex data packet. The translation, done by the best linguists and AI on Earth, came through a few minutes later. It was simple. "We are the silent chorus. We heard your song of peace. We have come in harmony." A collective sigh of relief seemed to pass through the entire solar system. On Earth, the news channels showed cheering crowds. On the moon, Min watched the feed in his communications center, a small smile on his face. They had chosen right. First contact procedures began. It was slow, careful work. A neutral meeting place was established, a large, converted space station in the asteroid belt called Handshake. Cultural and biological data was exchanged under strict quarantine protocols. The first visual of the aliens was released. They were breathtaking. Tall, willowy beings with long limbs, their skin had the same shifting, bioluminescent quality as their ships. They communicated through subtle patterns of light on their skin and through direct data transfer, which the translators interpreted as soft, melodic tones. They spoke of beauty, of the music of the spheres, of harvesting cosmic energies. They seemed serene, enlightened. Tay, like all personnel, was required to watch the briefings. He saw the images of the silent chorus ambassadors moving gracefully through the adapted environments of Handshake. "They're like something from an old myth," Hannah said, her voice full of wonder. "They're so peaceful." "That's the idea," Tay said. But a part of him, the pilot part trained to look for threats, felt uneasy. It was all too perfect. Their ships were advanced beyond human understanding, yet they showed no weapon systems, no armor. Their message was purely about art and philosophy. He shook the feeling off. He was being paranoid. This was history, and it was beautiful. Months passed. The silent chorus remained at the edge of the system, interacting only through the station. They accepted small gifts of human art and music, and offered in return stunning, swirling patterns of light they called songs. They asked gentle questions about human emotion, about the range of feeling. They seemed particularly fascinated by concepts of community and sacrifice. The official word from Earth was jubilant. First contact was a success. A new era of cosmic brotherhood was beginning. Preparations were being made for a formal cultural exchange aboard the Handshake station, where a select group of humans would meet the chorus face-to-face in a shared environment. Tay and Hannah received new orders. Their fast, agile Gyeongbok was assigned to the perimeter security detail for the event. It was a ceremonial role, a formality. Their job was to watch the stars and ensure the safety of the diplomats inside. As Tay guided his ship towards the glittering Handshake station, with the beautiful, pearl-like alien vessels resting nearby, he looked at Hannah. She was smiling, excited to witness history. "Think they'll let us meet one?" she asked. "Maybe," Tay said, letting himself hope. The universe was vast and strange, but it seemed, for the first time, to be kind. He pushed his last flicker of doubt deep down. Today was a day for peace. The Handshake station was a hub of quiet activity. In its main observation chamber, a group of human diplomats and scientists stood in their best uniforms, trying to appear calm. On the other side of a transparent barrier, 3 of the silent chorus waited. Their light pulsed in slow, soothing rhythms. The air was filled with a soft, harmonic tone from the translators. Tay's voice crackled over the secure channel in Hannah's ear. "Perimeter is clear. No activity on long-range scans. It's a quiet day out here." He was circling the station at a respectful distance in the Gyeongbok, a spectator to history. "Lucky them in there," Hannah whispered back from her co-pilot seat, watching the external feed. "They get to see the light show up close." Inside, the lead human diplomat, a man named Jay, was speaking. "We are honored by your presence. We share this moment as a first step toward mutual understanding." The translator beads around his neck glowed, converting his words into shimmering patterns on his chest for the aliens to read. One of the chorus beings stepped forward. The light on its skin shifted, forming complex, beautiful spirals. The translator in the room spoke in its gentle, melodic voice. "We hear your song. It is vibrant, unique in the quiet of this galaxy. We wish to understand its source. We wish to appreciate it fully." It seemed like a poetic thing to say. The humans smiled. Jay offered a data crystal containing libraries of human music, from classical symphonies to folk songs. "This is a part of our song," he said. The chorus being accepted the crystal. Its light patterns intensified, swirling faster. Yes, the emotion within. The fear, the joy, the love, the terror. It is rich. We thank you for this gift. The word terror hung in the air for a second. Jay glanced at his colleagues, but shrugged it off as a translation error. The aliens were speaking of artistic passion. Then, the lead chorus being raised its long, thin arm. It was not a gesture from the cultural packets. A small, delicate device, like a carved seashell, was in its hand. It made no sound. A wave of pressure hit the room. It was not physical but mental, a feeling of profound, icy wrongness. On the Gyeongbok, every alarm screamed at once. Tae jerked in his seat. What is that? An energy surge from the station. Hannah, scan for. Hannah gasped. Her hands flew to her temples. My head. It's so loud. Inside the chamber, Jay collapsed. He wasn't in pain. His eyes were wide open, staring at nothing, filled with a pure, animal horror. Around him, the other humans were falling, shaking, screaming silently. They were drowning in a fear that did not come from within them. It was being poured into their minds, a bottomless well of terror. The chorus beings watched, their lights now pulsing in a rapid, hungry rhythm. They were not attacking the bodies. They were harvesting the emotional reaction. Hannah! Tae yelled, fighting against a sudden, creeping dread that was leaking through the station's broadcast feeds. He could hear screams over the open channels from inside. He slammed his hand on the controls, firing the Gyeongbok's thrusters to turn toward the station. Hannah, talk to me. Hannah was trembling. She was looking at her hands, her breathing fast and shallow. It's so dark. Tae, I can see them all dying. She was seeing the bioagent's nightmares, a tailored horror attacking her specific psyche. The fear of being trapped, of being alone. Fight it, Hannah. It's not real. Tae shouted, but a cold terror was gripping his own heart. The view screen showed the beautiful pearl-like alien ships. They were no longer still. Their surfaces were shimmering violently, drinking in the energy of the fear being released on the station. A new transmission blasted across all frequencies. It was not melodic anymore. It was the translated voice of the silent chorus, flat and devoid of all the pretended warmth. Your species' emotional spectrum is potent. Your capacity for fear is exquisite. A rare vintage. We do not harvest worlds. We harvest experiences. You offered peace. We require sustenance. This is not war. This is harvest. Tae's blood went cold. They weren't soldiers. They were farmers. And humanity was their crop. He pushed the Gyeongbok to its limit, docking clamps extending. He had to get to Hannah, he had to get inside. The station's outer hatch, designed for peace, slid open for his ship. He found her in the cockpit, curled in her seat. She was pale, sweating, her eyes darting around at unseen horrors. The walls are closing in, she whispered, her voice thin and broken. Don't let them put me in the dark. I'm here, Tae said, his voice cracking. He unfastened her harness, pulling her into his arms. He could feel her heart hammering against his chest. Look at me, Tae. You're on the Gyeongbok. We're going home. But there was no going home. The nightmare agent was in her system, devouring her mind from the inside. She looked up at him, and for a second her eyes cleared. She saw him, not the monster her mind was creating, but her friend, her co-pilot. Tae! She breathed. A moment of cruel, beautiful clarity. Then the terror flooded back in, worse than before. Her body stiffened, a silent scream on her lips, and then she went still. Tae held her, kneeling on the cold deck of his ship. The screams from the station had stopped. The harvest was over. The silent chorus vessels, their surfaces glowing a satisfied, deep purple, began to turn slowly, orienting themselves toward the inner solar system, toward Earth. The gentle, peaceful light of their ships now looked like the coldest thing in the universe. They had taken Hannah. They had taken thousands. And they were just getting started. Chaos was a quiet thing viewed from the moon. Min sat in his chair, the same chair from which he had sent the message of peace. Now, his screens were a nightmare of red symbols and frantic, failing data lines. He watched the live feed from the handshake station until it went dark. He heard the final, flat transmission from the silent chorus. He understood. They hadn't misunderstood peace. They had used it as a trap. His stomach felt like a ball of lead. Alarms began to sound throughout the Lunar Communications Center. Soft, persistent wails. The main lights cut out, replaced by a dim, pulsing red glow. The station was under a different kind of attack. Not weapons, but a signal. The same terror wave that had hit the station, now broadcast as a wide-area pulse, was washing over the moon. Over the internal comms, Min heard screams. Short, sharp sounds of panic that were quickly cut off. Then sobbing. Then silence. The bioagent was here. The door to the comms room hissed open. Yuna stood there, her face pale but determined. In her hands was a heavy emergency suit helmet. "Min," she said, her voice tense but clear. "They're hitting us with a broadcast signal. It's in the air processors. You can feel it coming." The fear. As she said it, a cold, formless dread began to curl at the edges of Min's mind. It was the feeling of being buried alive, of infinite, suffocating darkness. It was his deepest fear, found and fed by an alien poison. "They're targeting Earth next," Yuna said, stepping inside and letting the door shut. She threw manual locks, her hands shaking only slightly. "The main comms array is the only thing that can reach the whole system now. You have to get to the secure bunker, the hardened channel." "No, together," Min said, standing up. A wave of dizziness hit him, not from the station, but from inside. The image of the silent, dark Earth filled his mind, a vision of total, irrevocable loss. Yuna shook her head. She pushed the helmet into his hands. "Someone has to seal the outer door. The bunker is a one-person pod. It's protocol. You're the senior communications officer. You have to be the one who survives to tell them." "Them? Who's left?" Min's voice broke. On a monitor, he saw the first images from Earth. Cities were not burning. They were just stopping. Cars sat motionless in streets. Lights flickered out. It was an invisible plague of madness and despair. "The ones who fight back," Yuna said. Her eyes were glistening, but not with the induced terror, with a fierce human anger. "They took our peace and burned it. Now they need to meet the rest of us. Go." She turned to the main control panel. Her fingers flew, initiating the lockdown sequence for the reinforced bunker behind the far wall. A small, round hatch hissed open, revealing a tiny room filled with a single chair and glowing screens. A tremor ran through Yuna. She grabbed the edge of the console, her knuckles white. The mental assault was getting stronger. "It's so dark in here," she whispered, not to him, but to the feeling. Then she blinked and looked back at him, her gaze sharp. "Now, Min." Min stumbled towards the hatch, the helmet clutched to his chest. He looked back. Yuna gave him a final, small smile, the same one she had when she brought him tea on a quiet night. A human smile. He scrambled into the bunker. The hatch sealed behind him with a solid, final thump. The red emergency light was gone, replaced by a soft, white glow. It was soundproof. He was alone. He put on the helmet, its air supply clean and cold. He sat at the console, his hands automatically bringing up the system status. He was cut off. He could only listen and watch. He opened a channel to Earth. What came through was not communications. It was a sound, a chorus of screams, of weeping, of raw, unfiltered human terror, all mixed into a single horrible transmission. The silent chorus was broadcasting their harvest to the stars. He switched to internal lunar feeds. He saw the empty corridors. He saw people in the cafeteria, some still, some rocking back and forth. He found the feed for the main comms room. Yuna was still at the console. She was shaking violently now, her arms wrapped around herself. She was fighting it. She was losing. Her head tilted back, a silent scream on her lips. Then, slowly, she slid from her chair and lay still on the cold floor. Min closed his eyes. He did not scream. He did not cry. A numbness settled over him, deeper than the induced fear could ever reach. The numbers on his screen told the story. Lunar colony, 94% non-responsive. Martian outposts, offline. Earth's major population centers were showing catastrophic neurological event spikes.
Millions.
Billions. A single, encrypted data packet blinked on his screen. It was from what was left of United Earth Command. The header read, Final Casualty Assessment. Eyes only. He opened it. It was not a list of names. It was a number. A percentage of the human population estimated to be killed or permanently incapacitated by the first wave. It was a number so large it had no meaning. It was just an empty, black hole where hope had been. The packet ended with 2 lines of text. Primary command structure. Destroyed. Contingency protocol. Other side. Activated. Stand by. Min sat in the white silence of the bunker. He looked at the feet of Yuna, still on the floor. He looked at the number on his screen. The people who had sent a message of peace were gone. He was just a man in a small white room. But he was connected to the last working transmitter in the solar system. He was now a monument. And a weapon. The white room was a tomb. Min sat in it, unmoving. The screens around him showed a quiet apocalypse. Earth, seen from the lunar cameras, was still blue and beautiful. But its lights were going out, city by city, like candles being snuffed. There were no explosions, just a terrible, spreading silence. An alert pinged, soft in the stillness. A secure channel was trying to connect. It was not from Earth Command. That was gone. The signal origin was scattered, broken. A ghost network pieced together by surviving military AIs, a few hidden bunkers, and the last captains of shattered ships. Min accepted the connection. A face appeared on screen. It was Commander Lee, her uniform torn, a burn mark on her cheek. Her eyes were red-rimmed but dry. Behind her, a cramped cockpit buzzed with low, urgent voices. Lunar Relay, identify, she said, her voice rough. Officer Min. I am the only one left here. Lee nodded, as if this was expected. We have visual confirmation of your status. You control the primary deep space array. Is it functional? Min called up the system report. The great dish carved into the moon's surface was undamaged. The Terra wave was a biological weapon, not an electromagnetic one. It is functional, but there is nothing to say. Wrong, Lee said sharply. There is everything to say. We are initiating contingency. Other side. You will be the messenger. A data stream flooded into Min's console. He opened it. It was not a military plan. There were no schematics for weapons. Instead, it was a collection of files. Audio recordings, medical scans, neurological profiles. What is this? Min asked. Their weapon is emotion, Lee said. They harvest fear. They think it is our only strong emotion. They are wrong. Other side is not a new bomb. It is a mirror. She explained. In the final moments, as the wave hit, scientists and soldiers on a doomed orbital lab had done one thing. They had not tried to block the terror. They had recorded it. They had also recorded the exact moment it was overcome. The files showed a soldier, his body trembling with induced panic, forcing his hand to close a circuit. A mother, weeping with horror, using her body to shield her child's eyes from a screen. A pilot, screaming, still steering her dying ship into the path of an alien vessel to buy time. We can't fight their technology, Lee said. Our weapons are useless, but they consume what we feel. So we will give them something new to eat. The data was a profile, a psychological weapon. It was the neurological signature of fear, not as an end, but as a beginning. The moment fear turned into something else. Into cold, focused rage. Into the unwavering will to protect. Into a hate so pure and clear it became a kind of calm. It was the emotional blueprint of humanity's fight instinct, stripped of all panic, all doubt. They wanted to harvest our terror, our helplessness, Lee said, her voice like stone. They think that is our core. We will show them our core is something else. We will transmit the emotional signature of our retaliation. Not the act, but the feeling behind it. The other side of the coin. Min understood. It was a poison pill. They would feed the silent chorus an emotion they could not digest. Your role is critical, Lee continued. The transmission must be powerful. It must be pure. It must carry the weight of all we have lost. It must come from the last place that spoke for a peaceful Earth. The irony will be part of the signal. Min looked at the feed of the main room. Yuna's body was still there. He looked at the number on his screen, the final casualty count. The numbness inside him began to crack. Something hot and hard flowed into the space it left behind. "What is the message?" he asked, his own voice sounding strange to him. A text file appeared. Simple words. The last words of the old Earth and the first words of the new. Lee read them aloud, as if taking an oath. "We sought peace. Now you'll face the other side of humanity." Silence hung between them across the void. "Can you do it, Officer Min?" Lee asked. "Can you be our voice?" Min's hands rested on the console. These were the hands that had sent the welcome. The hands that had served tea during the quiet night watch. They did not shake. He thought of Yuna choosing to seal the door. Of Hannah, dying in terror in Tay's arms. Of billions of peaceful songs, cut short. He was not a soldier. He was a communications officer. His duty was to send the message he was given. He would do his duty. "Yes," he said. "I am ready. Link the data to my console. Prepare the final transmission sequence." He began to work. He linked the other side database, the condensed pain, the fury, the resolve of a murdered world, directly to the main transmitter. He aimed the great lunar dish, not at a point of origin, but at the largest concentration of the silent chorus vessels, now moving toward Earth like a graceful, hungry swarm. He set the transmission to repeat, to burn out the array's power systems. This would be the last thing the great dish ever said. Min sat back. He was no longer just a man in a room. He was a conduit, the last quiet breath before the scream. He watched the status bar fill. The message was loaded. The target was locked. All that was left was to press the key. The console in the white room glowed with a single, pulsating prompt. "Transmission ready. Initiate." Beneath it, the words of the message were displayed, stark and simple on the dark screen. "We sought peace. Now you'll face the other side of humanity." Min's finger hovered over the key. It was the same key he had pressed to send the welcome. The metal felt colder now. On a secondary screen, he could see the silent chorus fleet. They drifted closer to Earth, their pearlescent hulls shimmering with a satisfied light, as if still digesting the terror they had harvested. They were beautiful and they were monsters. He thought of the data flowing into the transmitter. It was not a sound or a picture. It was raw, condensed emotion. The last clear thought of a scientist activating a self-destruct to deny them data. The cold, surgical fury of a soldier seeing his squad fall. The bottomless, protective rage of a parent. It was humanity's grief and its answer, turned into a weapon. He did not think of grand speeches or history. He thought of Yuna's hand, pushing the helmet into his chest. He thought of her final smile. That was part of the signal, too. The love that made the sacrifice, and the anger that followed the loss. He pressed the key. There was no sound. No dramatic burst of energy on the screens. But deep within the moon, the mighty transmission array awoke for the last time. It drew power from every battery, every backup cell, focusing it into a single focused beam of data. It was not a broadcast. It was a spear. The signal, carrying the other side of humanity, lanced through space. It bypassed shielding, ignored physical barriers. It was designed for one purpose: to be received by the emotional receptors of the silent chorus. On the bridge of the lead alien vessel, the being that had spoken of harmony observed the approach. It sensed the new transmission from the small, gray moon. It expected more fear. Richer, purer fear from the last survivors. A final, delicious course. It opened its senses to receive. What hit it was not fear. It was a scorching, blinding clarity. It was the emotional signature of a species that had just seen its children murdered. It was the white-hot focus of a mind that has lost everything and now has only one purpose: to make the cause of that loss cease to exist. It was vengeance, not as a hot rage, but as a cold, absolute fact. It was the collective will of a planet that said, "You will not take one more thing." The chorus being recoiled. Its beautiful lights flickered, then flashed violently. The emotion was not consumable. It was corrosive. It was a scream that burned instead of nourished. The being systems, so perfectly tuned to harvest and process terror, had no defense. The signal was an overload, a psychic poison. Across the fleet, the same reaction played out. The shimmering ships stuttered in their smooth flight. Their gentle glow turned into a jagged, panicked strobe. The harmony was shattered. They were not being attacked with missiles or plasma. They were being force-fed a feeling that was anathema to their very biology. Min watched from his tomb. He saw the alien vessels start to weave, to spin slowly out of formation. Communications intercepts, picked up by the dying lunar array, were chaos. The melodic tones were gone, replaced by sharp, discordant shrieks of digital pain. The translation software could only render one repeating phrase: unknown, corrupt, reject. They were trying to shut it out, but the signal was too strong, too pure. It was the last shout of a wounded animal that had turned, not to flee, but to fight to the death. It was everything the silent chorus was not and could not understand. Min's console flashed a warning. Array power at 5%. Transmission integrity holding. He did nothing. He let it burn. He watched as one of the smaller alien ships, its lights flashing erratically, drifted into another. There was no explosion, just a sudden, dark silence from both. The signal was doing its work. It was not killing them with force. It was killing them with truth. The truth that humanity was not just prey, that their peace was a choice, and their war would be an entirely different kind of song. The power gauge dropped to 1%. The great lunar dish was melting its own circuits, pouring everything into this last, silent scream. On the screen, the lead alien vessel was now dark except for frantic, sporadic bursts of light, like a dying heartbeat. The elegant swarm was breaking apart, consumed from within by the emotional poison they had been tricked into consuming. Transmission ended. Array offline. The white room went quiet. The screens still showed the view of space. The alien fleet was no longer advancing. It was scattered, dark, and still. Min leaned back. His job was done. He had been the messenger. He had shown them the other side. There was no victory in his heart, only a vast, hollow quiet, and the faint, fading echo of a scream that had just changed the fate of two species. Silence reclaimed the solar system. It was a different silence now, heavy and scarred. The beautiful alien ships hung dark and motionless against the stars, like a cluster of dead seashells floating in a black ocean. The corrosive echo of humanity's final transmission had done its work. But the work was not finished. In the cold cockpit of the Gyeongbok, Tae listened to the quiet. The alien communications had stopped. The psychic pressure, the crawling sense of dread, was gone. All that remained was the memory of it, and the weight of Hannah's body he had gently laid in the ship's small bunk. He had covered her with a thermal blanket. It was the only thing he could think to do. His sensors showed the alien fleet drifting, powerless. But they were not gone. They were still there, a monument to the betrayal. And they were between him and Earth. A weak signal found him. It was Commander Lee, her voice thin over the damaged relays. All remaining units. The other side transmission was successful. Enemy fleet is incapacitated. But their mothership, it shows signs of system reboot. It is not over. If they recover, they will finish the harvest. Tae looked at his weapon status. His ship had 2 small defensive missiles, designed to break apart asteroids. They would be like throwing pebbles at a mountain. He looked at the readout for the alien command vessel. It was the largest of them all, a sleek, silent cathedral of pearl. One of its many spires was flickering with a faint, unstable light. They were trying to come back online. He thought of Hannah's last moment of clarity, her eyes seeing him, not the nightmare. He thought of the fear they had forced into her, and the peace they had stolen from everyone. The cold, focused feeling that Min had just broadcast to the universe settled in Tae's own heart. It was not rage. It was a decision. He powered up the Gyeongbok's engines. The sound was a low, comforting hum in the quiet. He input a new course. Gyeongbok, this is command. What is your intention? Acknowledge. Lee's voice was tense. My intention is to finish it, Tay said, his voice calm. They are analyzing the signal. They are learning to filter it. If they adapt, Earth has no second shot. The message needs a period at the end. He didn't say goodbye. He closed the channel. He pushed the throttle forward. The small ship, a speck against the vastness, shot towards the silent alien command vessel. He targeted not the hull, but the base of the flickering spire, the source of the rebooting signal. Alarms blinked on his panel as the larger ship's dormant sensors detected his approach. A feeble, misaligned energy beam licked out from another turret, missing him by miles. They were crippled but not dead. Tay didn't fire his missiles. He saved them. He weaved through the lazy, disorganized fire, his eyes fixed on the target. The mothership grew to fill his entire view, a wall of dead, beautiful white. In his last seconds, he felt no fear. He felt a grim, clear satisfaction. They had harvested terror. They would not get his. They would get his certainty. The Gyeongbok, a tiny arrow of metal and wrath, slammed into the base of the flickering spire. The two small missiles, fired a fraction of a second before impact, shot into the wound the ship had made. The explosion was not huge. It was a bright, silent flash deep inside the alien vessel. Then a chain reaction began. The flickering light in the spire surged, turned a violent, sickly green, and raced through the ship's veins. From the inside, the great cathedral of pearl cracked apart, blossoming into a cloud of silent, glittering fragments. On the moon, in his white room, Min saw the flash on his monitor. He saw the alien command vessel disintegrate. He saw the remaining dark ships, without their leader, begin to drift apart on different trajectories, lost forever. He knew, without being told, what had happened. He knew a human had been the period at the end of the sentence. The war was over. It had lasted minutes and had cost almost everything. Min finally stood up. His legs were stiff. The white lights of the bunker felt too bright. He walked to the small, round hatch and placed his hand on the release. He took a deep breath of the clean, recycled air, and then opened it. The main room was dark, lit only by emergency lights. The air was still. Yuna was there on the floor. He knelt beside her. He closed her eyes. He walked to the main viewport, the one that showed Earth. The planet hung in the black, whole, and quiet. Its lights were still off. But it was there. It was not harvested. It was sleeping, wounded, but alive. He was the last man on the moon. He was the one who had sent the peace, and then sent the fury. He was the keeper of both stories. He sat down at the ruined main console, amidst the ghosts of his friends and the echoes of the screams. He had no more signals to send. His job was done. Now, there was only the long, silent wait to see if anyone down on the dark, blue marble would ever wake up, and what they would remember of the species that had sought peace, and then shown the universe its other side.